So Phil Bonatti here with a special guest, Dave Zittleman of BPS Public Schools Activities Director. I want to welcome you and thank you for being back on the show with me.
Appreciate it very much, Phil.
It's been a bit since we've had you on. Obviously, some crazy things going on in weather and other things going on in the winter season. Obviously, I want to start with the life of an activities director. December was one of the crazier months we've seen, and I know you've dealt with it in the past, but how is dealing with crazy weather situations? How has it been over the last few months, just rescheduling all those kind of things with what we saw?
Well, living here in North Dakota, we know that the winter time, we're generally going to have at least one day of rescheduling. It happened to be that we ended up having a period over 2 weeks where we had to reschedule, some contests for some sports, 3 or 4 contests, and so that does make it a little more difficult when you look at the length of season and how long we have to try to get a schedule in and accommodate that. And you look at many different things when you go to reschedule, from referees to your facilities, what's it being used for other sports. Busing is another issue that you have, the opponent's schedule, and refereeing, and all of that together, you have to get together and with the other team and the other athletic director. And I give kudos to my 3 building athletic directors, Scott Newstead, Paul Junt, and Ben Lervick, that having to work with all of that, it takes time. You just don't sit down and do it in 5 minutes. And if you miss multiple games, now you're working with multiple athletic directors to try to reschedule this. And some things can just go away. If you have a swim meet that's an invitational that doesn't count in the standings, you can basically say, okay, we're moving on to the next one. But when you have a double round robin schedule in basketball or hockey, you have to get those games in. And so thankfully our conference has been able to get in all the games.
You did mention hockey, and I know that's been a big project for you over the last couple years, adding Legacy over a year ago, and now we have the Bismarck Legacy and the Century Girls hockey team. What have you seen now that we've seen this expansion implemented? What has stood out to you most as we are now playing out these seasons?
Yeah, it's an exciting time. We have 23 girls on the Century team that's co-opted with St. Mary's, and then the Legacy Bismarck has 21. Great growth there. We used to carry 25 or 26 when we were the Blizzard. Now more kids are getting opportunity. Our youth programs are exploding in hockey. And so giving that opportunity, which is the ultimate thing, I think, playing for your school, I think it's really good. Now we're just into about 5 or 6 games into the actual, what they call the state conference schedule. Both teams are very competitive. We have lots of games to go. We're really excited about girls hockey and what it can be in Bismarck with 2 teams, and it's just at an infancy stage where we're still working on their identity, building their culture, and all of that, and it's been really good so far.
I know facilities and usage of facilities has been somewhat of a sticking point as far as who is getting ice time and when they're getting ice time. We did see over the last month, we saw Wachter have issues with their ice, but of course, what level of concern is there if we see a facility go down like that? How much are you trying to mitigate situations like that? Now that we're adding teams, how much of a concern is it seeing that stuff like that happen, and how much is their backup plans and stuff like that to figure it out?
Well, we're a partner with the parks, and we work with them in lots of different things, from youth all the way through adult, and they go out of their way to accommodate and make schedules. And of course, when the rink went down, they stepped up and they did the same type of things. Now, the timing of it was good because it was over break and all of that, and we were able to use different times. But like anything else, anything can break down, and you just have to be flexible and change your schedules. And ice time is tough to come by, and so everybody all the users have to accommodate and help each other out as much as possible. And I appreciate what the parks does for the youth and the adults in our community, and they've gone out of their way to make things good.
Now, of course, one of the big topical things in the news has been the situation with the Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin. Thankfully, over this past week, we found out the news that he's finally going home. He has recovered and has been released from the hospital. But what kind of reminders does it give to situations like you, to emergency situations during game days, and protocols that are reminded of in situations that you could have athletes fall into that similar situation?
In that instance, when it happened, it does make you think about what potentially can happen in your venues and in our athletic events. And I think we're very well prepared. We have an emergency action plan for each of our facilities, either Bismarck Public Schools or any that we use. We have all of our coaches that are coaching certified, and part of that coaching certification is a CPR, heat illness, concussion. They have to take first aid, so they all have that basic knowledge of that. Not to mention that we have an athletic trainer in each of our schools. And then at our competitions such as football and hockey, we do have an athletic trainer there. Varsity football, we have an ambulance that's there. And so we're prepared for these things. Again, when it happens, you have to jump up and you have to be ready to go. And so I feel like we prepare our coaches. We have the athletic training staff in place. And then we also have the emergency on hand there for some of our major contact sports. Again, they jumped at that football game, jumped up and saved the guy's life. There's no doubt about it. We also have an AED in each of our facilities, and I think if you know anything about AEDs, it's one of the most important things you can have right there, right now. It saves people's lives.
Of course, and thankfully we had the best news come out of that possibly. Dave, we have only so much time to talk, but I appreciate you hitting some of the hot topics and joining me on After the Whistle.
Gotcha. Thank you for having me.